What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Latest news and updates from around the league. It is always important to be up to date on the news coming out of camp. And while it's much more important in August, we need to get in the habit of staying on top of all this information. So before we go over all the news, let's start things off with the stat of the day. The answer to yesterday's stat of the day was D.D. Westbrook. Today's stat: among wide receivers with at least 15 deep targets, who saw the highest deep target rate? And that would just be like the percent of your targets that are deep targets. So among wide receivers with at least 15 deep targets, who had the highest deep target rate in 2018? But let's hop into some news. So we're going to start things off with James Conner. And earlier this offseason, we heard reports that Conner could be splitting time with Jalen Samuels and that Benny Snell could also be getting some time in his rookie season. The latest report to come out is from James Conner himself, saying he believes his role will be similar to last season. The first report was from a beat writer, so remember, we always take beat writers with a grain of salt, and ultimately, we're probably going to know before the season starts what the split is going to be. We're going to be able to see during camp who's getting the first team snaps. We're going to be able to break down who gets the snaps with the first team in the preseason games. So we're likely to know probably in like week 2 of the preseason what the split's going to be. And I kind of think it's going to be a mixture of these reports. I do not think they're going to split, but I think he's going to get a little bit less work than last season. They saw Jalen Samuels as a solid running back, so they're going to give him some work. And they're going to give Snell at least a little bit. So is he going to be in like the low to mid 80s like last season in snap count? Probably not, but he could be in the upper 70s. So he's still going to be a good pick this season because of the volume he's set to receive. I have Conner right now getting 60% of the team's carries, but again, we're going to know a lot more once the preseason starts. And if you always want to know where I have this running back split and every running back split in the league, then check out the draft kit on our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. You'll get access to my rankings, my projections, my player notes, and much, much more for the least expensive price in the industry. So be sure to check that out. And the next bit of news is surrounding Sonny Michel. And Sonny Michel is currently running full tilt after his knee scope. And he is on track to enter camp as the Patriots lead back and fully healthy. And I have the same opinion I've always had on Sonny Michel. He's very likely to lead the Patriots in carries this season, but he's going to see virtually no receiving work. And he's going to have less of an opportunity share than last season, even when he's healthy, because of Damian Harris. And if he suffers any sort of injury, like he probably will, he's one of the more likely running backs to suffer an injury, it's going to open the door for Damian Harris. So he is a pretty risky early round pick. And while he's got a lot of upside from the yardage standpoint on the ground and touchdowns, I mean, he could pull a LeGarrette Blount and score 18 touchdowns. Wouldn't shock me. Little receiving work, risk behind him, less opportunity share, risk with injuries. There's a lot of risk, and I avoid risk in the first few rounds, so I will likely not be drafting him. Although, check out tomorrow's video because I have another thing to say on that. Next guy, Emmanuel Sanders. And Emmanuel Sanders described his return in week 1 as, quote, realistic. And I don't buy that for a second. Everyone's overly optimistic as injuries are concerned in camp. And he didn't even say it's likely. He said it's realistic, as in it's possible. It could happen. So I still feel that there's a greater than 50% chance that he opens the season on the pup. So I will continue to target Courtland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton in drafts. And if you want which one I like more, I like Hamilton just because I think he's going like a round later. I don't know exactly, and it kind of varies sometimes, but he's going a little bit later in drafts, and I just like him a tad bit more. Next report is out of Buffalo that Frank Gore, Devin Singletary, and LaShawn McCoy split first team reps in OTAs. And this is basically what we expected from the Bills this season. It's going to be a horrible situation for fantasy, and it's going to be those three and Yeldon. Like, all these guys could see time. And while I think it's unlikely they use 4 running backs, we just don't know which 3 it's going to be. This report seems to indicate that Yeldon's going to be the odd man out, although that feels a little bit surprising to me. But honestly, it just doesn't matter who the odd man out is. You just got to stay away from this backfield. Unless there's an injury, you got to stay away. Like, the only guy I'd be looking at is Singletary, because he'd be on the rise in his career, where Gore and McCoy are on the downturn of their careers. But even him, it's only like a last round pick, and I don't even feel that exceptional about that. Ronald Jones, a report came out of the Atlantic that Peyton Barber is the favorite to finish the season with more rushing yards than Ronald Jones. I don't buy that for a second, but this is a similar situation to the Steelers. Like, we're going to know once camp and the preseason start, just like we did last season. We went into last season thinking it was Ronald Jones' job, and then there's reports out of camp that, nah, Jones doesn't look good. Peyton Barber's looking like the better guy. He's getting the first team reps. We see preseason. Yup, looks like Peyton Barber's guy, so we knew draft Peyton Barber last season. Don't draft Ronald Jones. We're going to know again this season. I would just be much more surprised than I was last season. Because last season, he was really young. We didn't really expect that much out of him because he was one of the youngest rookie running backs ever. I'd just be shocked if they saw what happened last season with Peyton Barber, and because we know that Peyton Barber has peaked in his career. Like, he's not getting any better than he has already. Ronald Jones at least has some upside being so young in his career. So I'd be very shocked if they don't at least start the season with him as the lead back. But again, we're going to know. So I'm still drafting Ronald Jones in best ball leagues until I see otherwise. Until I see concrete evidence that Peyton Barber is the lead back, I'm still going with Ronald Jones. Donte Moncrief. You guys heard me talk about Moncrief in Sunday's video, but all reports from OTAs have been that he is locked in to that number 2 wide receiver spot on the offense. And I buy this, definitely. James Washington isn't all that good. And Moncrief showed us last season that he's maybe not an elite wide receiver, but he's a better wide receiver than we've given him credit for. So I'll continue to target him late in drafts, although I do expect his ADP to rise because he's a wide receiver on, the Steelers. And if people already hyped up James Washington after what he did last season, just imagine what they're going to do to Donte Moncrief. So get him while you can, I guess. David Montgomery is the next guy, and he's apparently a, quote, problem for the Bears defense in OTAs. And we need to take that with a huge grain of salt. It's OTAs, so they're not actually playing defense. So, yeah, it's a problem to tackle a guy when you're, not tackling. It's definitely a positive for David Montgomery because they didn't say this about Mike Davis, But it's still going to be a little bit tough for him to produce where his ADP is, right? Because we know for a fact that Cohen's going to be involved in this offense. Does he get as much work as previous years? Probably not. But he's going to be involved in this offense. And I currently have him with, this is David Montgomery, 61% of the running back carries. And I think I'm going to keep it there until I see real news come out of camp. Because just saying that he's, quote, a problem isn't enough for me to be like, yep, move him up to 70% of the running back carries. No, I still need to see some reports about how they're going to use Mike Davis. Because if they're going to use Mike Davis on 30% of the running back carries, it's going to be pretty tough for Dave Montgomery to pay off his ADP. So I still want to see more reports before I'm willing to take him. Tyreek Hill, the latest report is that he's only going to see a maximum of 4 games in a suspension, and I find that a little bit hard to believe. The message that would send from the league just isn't going to be received well at all by the public. So my take has still been that he's going to get 6 to 8 weeks suspension, but at the end of the day, we're all just guessing. And we're going to know before the season starts anyways, so it's really not worth diving into too much because if the players don't know, we definitely don't know. But if you are someone who's drafting early or you're in best ball, I think I've thought about it. I'm pretty sure the late 5th round, that's kind of where you can feel comfortable taking him at this point. You just have to know that you're upside hunting for a guy that could return 2nd round value in the late 5th round. So you're just trying to win your championship there essentially. But you've got to know that there is a legitimate chance he's out for the entire season. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked for a second if Roger Goodell says, yeah, you're done this year. Although, it does look a lot better for him than it did a month ago. Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt was questioned outside of a Cleveland bar Saturday night, but no charges were filed. There's just not enough information at the time I'm recording this to know what's going to come of the situation. I know for a fact the league's going to look into it, but we have no idea. So there's nothing really we can say about this. No police report, no body camera video, and nothing exists about this incident that we know of, So it's terrible news for Kareem Hunt and anyone who wants to believe in him. But as of right now, it hasn't affected. He's still going to be missing the first 8 weeks of the season. So you still absolutely can't draft him in fantasy. But I guess this is a slight bump, again, to Nick Chubb, who I already love. I already think he's a good 2nd round pick. This incident does add the chance that Hunt is just out for the season next year, knowing that we, again, cannot predict Roger Goodell. So that's going to do it for the latest updates around the league. I'm probably going to do this, I don't know, probably once every few weeks just so we can stay on top of all this information. But that is everything through July 1st. I cut off July 1st latest updates. And remember, you can download our draft kit now available on our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that's the end of this one. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, how about you hit that like button? How about you subscribe if you are new? And thanks for watching.